So everybody keeps telling you the Kansas City Chiefs have a wide receiver problem. No true wide receiver one, too many question marks, and too much projection. And honestly, I just think everybody's looking at the receiver room completely the wrong way. Because I don't think the biggest story is about who's actually in the room. I think everything that changed around it is the actual story. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not sitting here telling you that this is one of the best wide receiver rooms in football, but I do think people are making one huge mistake. They're evaluating the receivers in a vacuum. They're acting like these guys are playing 7-on-7 football. They're not. Every part of an offense affects every other part. The quarterback affects the receivers. The offensive line, they affect the quarterback. The running game affects the passing game. The coaching, well, it affects everybody. And that's exactly why I'm more optimistic about this receiver room than I was 6 months ago. Let's start with the obvious. Rashee Rice. Rice has to keep his head on straight, wise up a little bit, and keep his ass on the football field. When Rashee Rice is on the field, Patrick Mahomes trusts him. That matters more than almost anything else. He's physical after the catch. He's fearless over the middle. He breaks tackles. He understands leverage. And maybe, most importantly, he consistently gives Mahomes answers. Now imagine getting that version of Rashee Rice for an entire season. That alone changes the offense. But then you've got Xavier Worthy. And honestly, I think this is his biggest year of his career. Not because he has to become Tyreek Hill. He doesn't. Not because he has to catch 120 passes. He doesn't have to do that either. He simply has to become a better version of the player we already saw flash in year 1 and year 2. He's entering year 3. The game should be slowing down for him a bit. His chemistry with Patrick Mahomes should continue to get better. His understanding of Andy Reid's offense, it should be better too. Everybody knows he's fast. NFL defenses know he's fast. The next step isn't about him running faster. It's about becoming a more complete receiver, winning with leverage, winning with releases, winning with route tempo. Those are the little things that turn that speed into production. Now here's where I think people are completely missing the bigger picture. Everybody keeps talking about the receivers, but nobody seems to be talking about the offense as a whole. Because what happens if the running game finally becomes something defenses actually have to respect? Think about everything the Chiefs have done this offseason. They brought in Kenneth Walker. They added Amari DiMercato. They drafted Emmett Johnson. They brought back Eric Bieniemy as the offensive coordinator. And DeMarco Murray, he's the running backs coach now. That's not an accident. To me, that says the Chiefs want to become a more balanced offense. Now, am I saying that they're suddenly going to become the 2020 Tennessee Titans? Not even a little bit. Patrick Mahomes is always going to be the centerpiece of this offense. But if Kansas City can consistently run the football, everything changes. Pat could play under center more. Play action becomes more dangerous. Linebackers, they'll hesitate. Safeties can't cheat downhill or fly backward as aggressively. Defenses have to play the Chiefs more honest. And when defenses have to play honestly, Patrick Mahomes wins. Because Patrick Mahomes doesn't need huge throwing windows. He just needs windows. Because last year, our receivers were the worst in the entire NFL at getting separation. Just a split-second hesitation from a linebacker can be the difference between a completion and an explosive play. Even one safety taking 2 extra steps towards the line of scrimmage can open up the deep middle of the field. And who benefits from that? The receivers. All of them. That's why I think people are evaluating this room completely backwards. They're all saying that the receivers have to carry this offense. I don't think that's true at all. I think the rest of the offense has a chance to make life easier for them, don't you? And if you're enjoying this video so far, do me a quick favor. Let's see if we can get this video to 500 likes. I think you guys will crush it. Now back to the show. So there's another offseason addition that I don't think people are talking about enough. Chad O'Shea. Honestly, this might be one of Brett Veach's most underrated moves. When people think about offseason additions, they immediately think about the players. I think one of the most important additions might actually be this coach. Chad O'Shea spent years coaching wide receivers in New England, working with one of the league's most consistently productive passing attacks. He later became Miami's offensive coordinator before continuing his work coaching wide receivers in the passing game in Cleveland. Now, am I saying Chad O'Shea alone developed Wes Welker and Julian Edelman, or that he was the reason Randy Moss was so good? Of course not. Football doesn't quite work like that. But what he does bring is years of experience teaching the details that help make decent athletes into good, dependable receivers. Releases, route stems, body positioning, spacing, leverage, reading coverages. Those little things don't always show up on a stat sheet, but they absolutely show up on Sundays. And if I were being completely honest, a fresh voice in that wide receiver room is probably exactly what we needed. It's just the truth. Sometimes players simply respond differently to a new coach. Sometimes new teaching methods unlock something that wasn't there before. Sometimes a new perspective makes all the difference. And when you've got a relatively young receiver room, that's freaking exciting. Now here's another name I don't think enough people are talking about. Cyrus Allen. No, I'm not telling you he's going to walk into training camp, become the next Tyreek Hill. I'm not even telling you he's guaranteed to get snaps in his rookie season. What I am telling you is this. He's one of the most intriguing rookies on this football team. One of the things that consistently stood out on his college film was his ability to create separation and attack defenses successfully. Now, obviously, doing that in college and doing it against NFL corners are two completely different things. But separation is one of those traits that translates if it's developed correctly. And that's exactly why I keep coming back to Chad O'Shea. If you're a veteran receiver coach, you love getting your hands on young players with raw traits. You can't teach speed, you can't teach athleticism, but you absolutely can teach releases. You can teach that leverage. You can teach how to attack different coverages. You can teach how to sell routes. Those are the little details that make talented players productive players. I'm fascinated to see what Cyrus Allen looks like after a full training camp under O'Shea. Maybe he doesn't make a huge impact this year. Maybe he's more of a developmental player. But don't be surprised if he starts turning heads once camp gets rolling. Then there's Tyquan Thornton. I honestly think Chiefs fans kind of forget about him sometimes, but he is back. He'll have another offseason in the system under his belt. He's still one of the fastest players on this roster. We've seen players revive their careers after landing in the right situation before. Maybe Kansas City ends up being that place for him after all. He was the best vertical receiver option for Mahomes last year before the coaching staff infamously pulled the plug on his opportunities. Maybe they learned their lesson here. And when you start stacking all of these little improvements together, Rashee Rice staying on the field, a healthy Xavier Worthy in his third season, a much better running game, Chad O'Shea, Cyrus Allen, Tyquan Thornton getting more snaps, suddenly, this room starts looking a whole lot different than it did just 6 months ago.
Shout out Prize Picks for sponsoring today's episode. Today we're making an entry on some MLB games. We're going to take Tommy Edman, 4-hitter fantasy score. We're going to go more on this one. We're also going to take Zach Wheeler of the Philadelphia Phillies versus the Dodgers, 4.5 strikeouts. We're going to go more on that one. Then we're going to take Kansas City outfielder Lane Thomas versus the Giants, 5-hitter fantasy score. We're going more. Let's go ahead and lock that in. Remember, Prize Picks is America's #1 sports pick app. You can follow along with us all season at All Chiefed Up, tell our picks. And right now there's a new user offer. Play your first $5 and get $150 in lineups. If you win, just use code HMA when you sign up. You can find the link in the description.
Now let's talk about one of the biggest fan favorites heading into camp, Jeff Caldwell. Chiefs Kingdom absolutely loves this kid right now, and honestly, I understand it. Every single summer, fans fall in love with an undrafted player. Everybody wants to discover the next hidden gem before anybody else does. Could Jeff Caldwell be that guy? Maybe. But let's keep our expectations realistic. Training camp hasn't even started. Pads haven't come on. Nobody has earned anything yet. What I do think is interesting is where he fits into the roster conversation. Because when you look at the bottom of this receiver room, there are some opportunities. Take Nico Remigio, for example. He's shown a little bit of value as a returner, but offensively, he just isn't used in Andy Reid's offense. So if Jeff Caldwell comes into camp and proves he can consistently separate, if he catches everything thrown his way, if he understands the offense, and other guys can contribute on special teams, then suddenly you've got a real competition for one of those final receiver spots. That's why I keep telling people, don't decide this roster in July. Let training camp tell the story. Because every year somebody surprises us. Every single year. And honestly, that's one of the things I'm most excited to watch. Now, if you're finding value in this video and you enjoy these kinds of football discussions, do me one favor, hit that subscribe button. We're pushing towards 100,000 subscribers, and that's been a dream of ours for a long time now. If you enjoy honest Chiefs coverage from fans for fans, we'd love to have you join Chiefs Kingdom here on All Chiefed Up. Now, let's bring all of this together. When people say they're worried about the Chiefs receivers, I think they're looking at one piece of the puzzle. I'm looking at the entire picture. I'm looking at a healthy and not in trouble Rashee Rice. I'm looking at Xavier Worthy entering what could be the biggest season of his young career. I'm looking at a coaching change at wide receiver. I'm looking at a running game that has every chance to be significantly better. I'm looking at more competition than we've had in this room for quite some time. I'm looking at Patrick Mahomes, the greatest quarterback we've ever seen throwing the football. And history tells us something. Patrick Mahomes has already won Super Bowls without having the most talented receiver room in football. He doesn't need 5 Pro Bowl receivers. He needs dependable players. He needs guys who understand the offense. He needs receivers who create enough separation, catch the football, and earn his trust. That's exactly why I think this room is being underestimated. Not because every receiver is suddenly going to become a superstar, but because I think the environment around them is better than it's been in a very long time. And when all of those things improve together, the receivers usually do too. That's why I believe we're going to look back later this season and realize the wide receiver room was never as big of a concern as we made it out to be. So now I want to hear from you. What's the biggest reason you're optimistic or concerned about the receiver room? Is it Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy's development, the coaching changes, the running game, or is there another player you think we're sleeping on? Let me know down in the comments. And if you're still worried about whether Patrick Mahomes is going to be protected properly this season, I've got another video you're going to want to watch right now. We break down the entire offensive line, where the biggest questions are, and why I actually think this unit has a chance to be much better than people expect. Go check that one out, and as always, go Chiefs.